Living in exponential times means that an individual now needs to learn more and more just to keep up, to be relevant, and to acquire the skills and competencies in the work environment. Formal learning is defined as, as a top-down approach to learning, while informal learning is something that an individual does naturally every day.
We know that we have success. Do we know that the system is working? Do we know that people have the skills to be able to use it? Are they using it well? We don't know. We don't have the capacity to be able to support those learners after they leave our classroom. And I think in our role as the college, it's not only about can we develop and design perfect training programs that are delivered in a classroom, but can we support the learners and create that environment, that learnscape that will help them continue to strive to learn and become proficient. Because the other thing that highlighted in this chapter, it's not what they know when they leave the classroom, it's how well they can do the job. And ultimately, learning has to continue for them to be able to do their job. And I think that as a college is where we need to focus our energies.
Moving from training programs to collaboration platforms, from mandated learning to self-serve, from just-in-case learning, which is a lot of what we do, just-in-case learning, to just-in-time learning. That was a very powerful thing. And then this word that came out yesterday, which I was talking about, from training programs to learnscapes. And I guess it opened up my mind to think that when the corporation asks us to look at coming up with a learning solution, say for new hires for EI, or for the ITRDS, or for the G's and C's training that we have to do, or for whatever training that we have to do, we have to think about, and I liked yesterday, before they come to the classroom, while they're in the classroom, and after they're in the classroom. And we actually have to ask for money for all three. We actually have to map out what a learnscape would look like to support the learning objectives. And which brings me to talk about learning outcomes. I think the main thing that we've got to take an interest in is learning outcomes, and then work our way back from there and figure out all the pieces that lead us to that learning outcome, and not limit ourselves just to the classroom. So there's
around how successful organizations connect people, and that learning is social. And it makes a lot of sense, but it's interesting how we make learning sometimes into an event, and we time it so that it's so structured that we structure out the social aspect of learning and the notion that we learn from, by, and with other people. So this chapter talks about the importance of connecting not only for the purposes of learning, but also for the purposes of doing work. And just a couple of points, building on some of the statistics from the presentation for Chapter 1. Knowledge workers spend 30 to 40% of their time looking for information or helping colleagues to do the same. That the knowledge worker is 5 times more likely to ask another person for information than to resort to a database or to a filing cabinet or to another form of information management system. And this sort of moves us from the notion of know how to know who. And the notion behind knowledge management versus connectivity or connectiveness with others. And that, we spend a lot of time connecting with people, and we think we know how we work with one another, but in fact, that a lot of the connectivity that helps us learn is actually through informal networks, is to help the organization in terms of support to this notion of connectivity through our training, through our various methodologies for training, in terms of sustaining that connectivity with others beyond the formal learning event, because that informal learning has a lot more power that we have not been tapping into. And so another point in this, that really struck home with me is that if people are going to others for answers, we really need to make it easy for them to get to know the people who know. And we had a bit of that conversation yesterday around IBM's notion of blue pages, where they have an understanding of who knows what, who's worked on what, who knows who, so that we can make it easier for people to get the answers that they need more quickly. And it isn't something that's necessarily organized formally, but that occurs informally and naturally within the organization.
They have to do a personal knowledge management inventory. That is, what do they have in the way of their current set of knowledges that bears on the training being taught? Obviously, if you're teaching a course to novice learners, you're going to take a different approach than if you're dealing with a similar subject to experienced learners. It just basically says, take a look at what you're going to bring into the learning event that you're going to participate in, and make sure that is factored into how the learning is delivered. It stresses the need to form powerful relationships. Relationships could be anything with anybody, anywhere that bears on the delivery of the learning. It could be with your peers in terms of who else is in the course, who else is participating in the learning event. It could deal with the instructor. It could deal with assisting organizations such like ours. And getting an understanding of how to interact with the people that are participating and part of the learning environment is extremely important for both learners and the learning organizations.
Clearly is that really if our systems aren't in check, whether it be mental or physical, if we're not at 100%, we're likely all working really hard just to keep up and just to cope. So going above and beyond sometimes is not even on folks' radar. Couple of things that concept sections throughout Chapter 7 that are actually really great. One is that really, G takes a moment to sort of do that reflection piece on the individual and recognizing that folks need to really know where they're going. And there he cites things like, for example, what color is your parachute? 43things.com, which is some great tips around writing things down, trying to get inspired, sharing your progress with people. So really clear things around your work style and to know where you fit in the bigger picture. Looking at things like finding your calling. What exactly are you passionate about? What would you do differently if you could? And one of the interesting things that is in this section was that he asked sort of, I guess, what you call old school folks, what exactly they would do differently. And 3 areas were, one, I'd take more time for reflection. So sit back and actually absorb and reflect. Have some more courage and take risks that I otherwise, should have. And also focusing on purpose. And I really like this quote because it says, leave a dent. And I quite like that analogy. So what are we all going to do to leave a dent in terms of our purpose? So again,
of envisioning as a tool that goes beyond the word and invites both insights for people and invites their contributions so that there's a real ownership over the journey, for instance. And the people, we may create an image of a journey, and that image is also a living document in that it can be amended, adjusted, and course-corrected throughout generations of people who will go through it. So, powerful tool. And as an illustration of that, yesterday Jay showed us a poster that he's done of that if we can show on the wall here, Pierre-Luc. And this is a poster that is created that actually captures the essence of this whole book. Okay, so it shows how we can use imageries to convey the essence of things in a profound manner and help people really understand complicated problems or situation. One of the problems we're facing with the college right now, and we're talking yesterday and today on it, is how do we help move the whole organization from a culture primarily focused on formal training to an environment that, in respect of the renewal agenda, that is going to support a learning culture throughout the organization. And maybe we ought to try and find a way to illustrate or to envision that journey together.